When I was a learner of English, I used to love learning idioms. What are idioms? I'm sure that maybe you know. But idioms are those expressions like, for example, to feel under the weather. That means to not feel very well. So instead of saying, I don't feel very well, maybe you have a cold, you say, I feel a little bit under the weather, or I feel under the weather. So those expressions that you cannot really understand what they mean by looking at the single words. What does it mean to feel under the weather? Doesn't make sense. But that's an idiom, okay? So if you take all the words, you put them together, that block of words will have a specific meaning. And there are many idioms in English and also in every language. Every language has got idioms. And because I can only speak two languages, Italian and English, Italian is my first language and English is my second one. When I was learning English, I remember being fascinated by learning new idioms. And as a teacher of English, I've also seen many students being very interested in learning idioms. But there's a problem. I've noticed a problem that I had as well. And this problem is related to using idioms skillfully. For example, going to bed, okay? Going to bed, you can say, I went to bed, or I read books before going to bed. But you can also say, I read books before hitting the sack. To hit the sack, which means to go to bed. It's an idiomatic expression, meaning going to bed. It's okay. This is also a matter of personal taste. In my writing, I don't use idioms, but I've seen many students, many writers in my English teaching experience, which is now, almost 10 years. I've seen many texts, many students write using idioms, overusing idioms, and that has the opposite effect of what the writer wants to convey. So idioms are fascinating also because, they were fascinating to me because they make you sound advanced. So they make you sound, or they make your writing look advanced. Because, these are advanced expressions. There is this thing with advanced English, which I don't know what it is, to be honest. What is advanced English? If you go online, I'm sure you've seen people saying, don't say this is basic English, but write that. This is advanced English. I don't understand this, because my writing is very basic. So my writing is very simple. I don't use big words, like advanced words. I don't even know what they are, but I try to use simple words. And probably this is something that some people will say, well, your writing is too basic. Maybe try to use some idioms to, make your writing look and sound more advanced. I don't agree with this. No one has ever said this to me, to be honest, okay? No one has ever said to me this thing. But I've seen students learning idioms and then using idioms in every sentence. Not in every sentence, but very often in their writing. And I guess that they do this because of the way I wanted to, because of what I used to do when I was a learner of English. So using these expressions to sound, to look cool even. But this is not how language is used. This is not how writing works. This is not how speaking works. You shouldn't write something to impress other people because you can use advanced expressions or these idioms. And probably exams like IELTS, the Cambridge exams, maybe there might be students, maybe you have been influenced by this because you need to impress the examiner, or you need to write, you need to complete, a writing task that will be assessed by the examiner. So you want to impress the examiner. You want to show that your writing is, that you know these words, that you know these idioms. You don't just know basic words, you also know these advanced expressions. But in writing especially, if you don't, these expressions they're used in specific contexts. Some of them are informal, which, maybe you're writing a formal thing and then you throw in this idiom and that doesn't fit with the rest. So you need to be very careful. If you read what I write, if you've read my book, I think you can't see any idioms there. I think I haven't used any idioms. I'm not saying that you shouldn't learn them. I'm not saying that you should never use idioms in your writing. No, of course not, because they have also a purpose. They can make you feel. They can make you convey a specific meaning, specific message that you wouldn't be able to convey with the same effect without using that specific idiom. So I guess that here the point is, don't worry about sounding advanced. Don't worry about impressing this invisible jury that will read your stuff, or don't try to impress anyone with your words, with how you use words. This is my advice. This is what I do. I don't, as I said, my writing is very simple. And also, see if you can go pick a book, go and find a book that you've already read, one that you have already read, and open the book, read 5 pages, and see how many idioms the writer has used. See how many you can find. If you find more than 10, let me know. I think you will not. I think you will find maybe 1 or 2. So keep it simple, and especially if you are not, if your English is not, don't want to say advanced now. If your English is not, let's say. Okay, let's say advanced. Okay, let's say your English is not you're still at an intermediate level. Okay, then I think you shouldn't. But try. Up to you. Maybe spend more time learning other things, learning how to write, how to convey a message, how to tell a story. Spend more time improving your speaking, your fluency. But this, it all depends on where you are and what you do. So I don't want to give generic advice. The only advice is, don't think that the main point is don't worry about sounding impressive, sounding impressive. Don't worry. I mean, it's fine to write in simple English. This is the point. It's fine to write in simple English and using simple words. It's fine to say, I don't feel well, or to write, I didn't feel well. You don't have to say, I feel under the weather today. You can, of course you can, but again, if you've taken some exams and you've seen how they assess your vocabulary, how they evaluate your vocabulary, you will see in the descriptors that they say something like, use idiomatic expressions skillfully. Skillfully. Skillfully means when they're needed, because they're not always needed, when they can convey a message or a specific meaning that another word wouldn't be able, or another expression wouldn't be able to convey, and without overusing them. Otherwise, the risk is that you sound, it's very unnatural, very unnatural. And one more thing. I've already talked about a book called 100 Ways to Improve Your Writing by Gary Provost. There's another video. I will link it. I will put a link in the comments anyway. This is the book that I'm talking about, 100 Ways to Improve Your Writing. And I was reading this book, and there's a chapter called Avoid Cliches. And it's interesting that the author here considers some idioms cliches. So some of these idioms have been they've been overused. People have been using them for too long, too much, that they've become cliches. So they are not impactful anymore. And there's a nice paragraph. The chapter is very short, and I'm going to read it out. Very short. And it says this: cliches are a dime a dozen. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. They've been used once too often. They've outlived their usefulness. Their familiarity breeds contempt. They make the writer look as dumb as a doornail, and they cause the reader to sleep like a log. So, be sly as a fox. Avoid cliches like the plug. Plug, I don't know if that's correct. If you start to use one, drop it like a hot potato. Instead, be smart as a whip. Write something that is fresh as a daisy, cute as a button, and sharp as a tack. Better safe than sorry. So, this is a paragraph full of idioms, basically. Idioms like better safe than sorry, as dumb as a doornail, to sleep like a log, to be sly as a fox. All these are idioms that have become cliches. Not all idioms are cliches, okay? But some of them, there's also this risk that you sound like, he says, as dumb as a doornail. So they make the writer look as dumb as a doornail, and they cause the reader to sleep like a log. So you risk boring your reader even. But again, I don't want to say, don't use idioms. No, this is not the message. The message is be careful. Be careful and learn how to use them skillfully. That's what I wanted to tell you. In your writing, especially in your writing, because I like teaching writing, and this is my channel now. It's all about writing and interviewing writers, interviewing educators. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. If I'm saying, you know, some crazy things, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to prescribe anything here. If you read my book, you know that every piece of advice you hear or see is, you should question it. You should question every piece of advice that you hear or see, especially online, where anybody can tell you anything. Like me, I just pressed record, and now I'm talking to you, but maybe you disagree, and actually I would love to hear from you, especially if you disagree with what I'm saying here or what I say on my channel or on my podcast. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Let me know. Thank you for listening. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video or podcast. Bye-bye.